Well, I've been talking with a lawyer again. I have. This one for the very first time. I saw him on a TV news story out of a local station in South Carolina. You're going to find out why I wanted to have him here on the channel in just a sec. So, welcome to my virtual campfire. Hope you're doing well and that you're lucky enough to have some of these nasty springtime storms go around you. All right. Before I talk about the lawyer, before we roll today's interview, I want to assure you that not all RV dealers are alike. Not by a long shot. There are still some great ones out there. Dealers that folks call America's most trusted RV dealers. And you'll find links to them down below in the description. When you're doing your homework before you buy, and you better do your homework if you want to be a happy camper, I hope that you'll check them out. Give them an opportunity to earn your business. They will treat you right before, during, and especially after the sale. They really will. But sadly, the numbers of these great dealers is shrinking every year. It is, as more and more of these local businesses get gobbled up by giant corporate chains like Camping World, which brings me to today's guest. I'm talking with South Carolina attorney Josh Slavin, who is representing more and more RV buyers who all have one thing in common. You guessed it, they bought from Camping World, and now they are fighting for justice. Over the last 9 years or so, I guess Josh has probably seen it all. Broken promises, shady paperwork, endless delays, and RV owners left making payments on rigs that they can't even use. So why does this keep happening? And what rights do you have if it happens to you? We're digging into all of it right now. So stick around. This one's important. Well, the reason you and I are crossing paths, Josh, is that, I saw a news story, a local news story from over there, I guess it's South Carolina, with you in it. And because you represent so many clients that have the same interest, I thought, what the heck? Let's see if we can get together and talk a little bit. So thanks for joining me. Now, are you a quote unquote lemon lawyer or?
I take lemon law cases. I've done car cases and I've done RV cases. I also do all other types of plaintiff's litigation. So I wouldn't strictly limit myself to representing only RV owners with lemon law cases.
How did
I've
you
certainly
get?
done a number of them.
Well, how did you get to be involved with so many people that have the same dealer, Camping World? Might as well come right out and say it. But that was part of the news story. And I got to say that the news story, I'm going to put a link to it down below. Most news stories are very short. This was not. This was a nice long story.
I want to give that report, frankly. She did a great job. She dug into it. And I appreciate that. Frankly, well, let me back up and tell you into the story, and then I'll tie it into that news story.
Yeah.
When I first went on my own, I got a call from another lawyer. Said, Josh, I have these folks. They have a RV. Seems like a real mess of a case. I don't really know anything about it. Do you want to talk to them? I looked at it and I said, this seems like something's wrong here. Did some research and said they have a viable cause of action under the federal Magnuson Loss Warranty Act. South Carolina doesn't have lemon law for the habitable portion of the RV or camper. It's just for the chassis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a viable federal cause of action. Filed a lawsuit, represented them, got a great outcome, and said, "Oh, these are important cases for people who are getting kind of run around and getting stuck up, under the thumb or the rock of a big corporation with a lot more resources than them, and they're stuck paying for this thing that I know I would be very angry if I was in their position."
So you just sort of it was brought to you, this RV case. So you said, "Heck yeah, I'll take it on."
Yeah, and that was 9 years ago. And then after that, I got another one and another one and another one, and it's been several over the past 9 years. And then that news story, I guess I never realized just how many people. I don't advertise for them. Word of mouth, or the lawyers know I do, and they send people to me. And that news story said, "Oh," made me realize this is a much bigger problem.
What happened to your business and people contacting you after that news story aired? I mean,
well, not including you, lots of other emails and phone calls, and I was kind of anticipating it after talking to the reporter, and got set up to receive all that new intake. And I have several new clients who have causes we're bringing new cases for them too.
now some of them are pretty devastating. I mean, the things that the people in the news story are talking about, the victims, if you will, I guess the plaintiffs that you're representing, Talk about that, because it's not just one thing, but it's a multitude of things.
Right. So these, like your listeners, your viewers know, they run the gamut, right? They're $20,000 or $30,000 RVs. They're $100,000 plus, motorhomes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people have them for all different reasons, whether it's a retirement dream to go travel around, to have a place for a family to stay, or sometimes it's some really heartbreaking situations where somebody got out of a woman gets out of a violent domestic relationship, needs a place to stay, goes and gets a camper, thinking, all right, this will be how I kind of get my life back in order. And then she was stuck with a really bad situation with the camper, mold, rain coming through the ceiling, talked out of buying the warranty on it when she goes to buy it because they knew what they were selling her, and just high payments. Really, I don't want to get too much into the details of that one specific case, but they run. These are people in a vulnerable situation sometimes, and being taken advantage of. And there's nothing that gets me more angry than.
How does this happen, Josh? How does it how does it happen that so many people are taken advantage of? It's not just one or two or the handful of people that you're representing right now, but it seems to be from coast to coast, up to down, and it's all this stuff happens. Why is that? And then I know this is a multi-part question, but you mentioned the Magnuson-Moss Act and not necessarily a lemon law. So I'd like to kind of be very basic on that. But were these lemon law cases that you were taking on in the news, or is this something else?
Sure. Let me see if I can answer both of those. I started watching your news, your YouTube feed after you reached out, and I saw somebody ask a question to you on one of the videos. And by the way, I really appreciate what you're doing, and that you're bringing attention and trying to help consumers from your angle too. And one of the questions that somebody asked was, well, isn't it the consumer's fault for falling for these terms and not doing their due diligence and not reading the warranty? And it got me thinking, most of us go through the world day to day, and you can kind of trust that people are being honest with you. You go to the store and you buy something off the shelf, and it's going to be what's advertised, what you pay for. And if it's not, you go back to Walmart or Home Depot or whatever it is, and you return it. And the problem is right. It's correct, right?
Yeah.
That's the way and you kind of have to be able to go through the world like that, because if you can't do that, and you have to assume that everybody's trying to lie, deceive you, being dishonest, you can't just do basic transactions, right? So how do people fall for it? Has this happened? Because we live in mostly a society, a system that you can kind of trust that big business is not going to screw you or lie to you to your face, at least in a very serious way, right? So people go in, and maybe they should be a little less trusting, but I don't blame the victim, somebody who's been taken advantage of, for trusting somebody who's to their face telling them, hey, this is fair and we're going to take care of you.
And I found, and all the people I talk to, generally speaking, the older the person is, the more trusting they are of a big corporation that does business with them. And while Camping World might not be technically breaking the law, of course they would never say, oh yeah, we're breaking the law. They are flirting with the truth, and they're not being, in my opinion, fully open about these things are not mandatory to put in your sales agreement. And they're just not being as honest as most people expect them to be. And it's not just Camping World.
So all my cases, I think, involving RVs have been Camping World cases. And I don't want to come on here and start making accusations, but what I've seen has been promises that were not being kept, as far as, all right, here's a problem, we're going to fix it, and here's a reasonable timeline for us to fix it. You'll have your camper back within 3 weeks or within 2 months or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 months goes by, 4 months, 6 months, a year goes by, and the person who ends up being my client still doesn't have their camper. They're holding up their end of the bargain, right?
What? One more time?
They're holding up their end of the bargain. They're doing what they're obligated to do. They're still making their payments on their RV.
Right.
They're following what the dealer says. Here's what you have to do to, get your warranty, to bring it to us, or bring it to the manufacturer. Whatever the obligations are under the warranty, they're doing their part, and the dealer's not holding their end of the bargain in delivering an RV that works, that doesn't have a bunch of defects, or if it does, fixing within a reasonable amount of time. And it kind of brings me back to when I first got these cases. I said, this doesn't seem right. And it turns out, the law gives us protections when this happens, but people don't always know that they're available, that there's legal remedies available. And that brings me back to the Magnuson Loss Warranty Act.
Yes.
And the distinction with lemon law, right? So lemon law, I think people kind of have an idea when it comes to cars. In South Carolina, it's 3 repair attempts or 30 days out of service on a new car only. That's the South Carolina law. It doesn't apply to, like I said, the living portion, the habitable portion of the RV or the camper. It's just the chassis, which usually is not a problem as far as I've seen.
Right.
But then we have the Magnuson Loss Warranty Act. It's a federal law that covers everybody across all the states, right? And it pulls from those state laws what is a breach of warranty. So then you look at the individual state laws on what's going to qualify as a breach of warranty, and then that's how you end up having a viable cause of action under the federal law for these, again, repeated repair attempts and extended times out of service at the dealership or the manufacturer for repairs. In South Carolina, it's 30 days, 3 repair attempts. And that's kind of, after that, it's considered unreasonable.
Yeah, but you don't do that on a travel trailer. I mean, you can't claim something like that on a towable. I mean, you've got to go the Magnuson Moss route.
Right. You go the Magnuson Moss route to bring that cause of action, and others will bring other laws. Each kind of statute or law that you're relying on, we call it cause of action, right? So we'll bring a cause of action for negligence, just negligent repairs, right? Got to do the repairs in a reasonable way, in a workmanlike manner.
But who determines what reasonable is? What, reasonable to the manufacturer or the dealer is, well, we did what we could, so what if it's 9 months? But reasonable to me, I'm making payments, insurance, storage, to reserve my place at the lot so I don't lose it. I've lost my camping reservations. What's reasonable and who determines that?
Well, ultimately, now we're getting into how does the legal process play out? And ultimately, it's the jury, if you reach the jury. Or if along the way you don't reach a jury, a judge will look at this and say, is there, as a matter of law, is this okay or is it not okay? And along the way, there will be negotiations between the plaintiff, the RV owner, and me or their lawyer, and the dealership and the manufacturer and their lawyer. And you try and work out a resolution if you can. Can't always. And then you go to the jury.
How successful, I know you can't talk about specific cases, but, generally speaking, how quickly does the legal pendulum swing back towards the consumer's favor and benefit when they finally contact you? Because a lot of people have waited till the very, they got a new RV and maybe the warranty is getting ready to expire by the time they contact you. I don't know if my question makes any sense or my statement.
Well, I think I know what you're getting at. It's by the time somebody calls me as a lawyer, they've been through a lot on this RV, going back and forth from the dealer for repairs, being told, I'll be ready in a month, and then it's not ready, and then another month, like we said, right?
Right.
I've had clients where it's at the dealership for however long, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, longer. Then they get it back, and there's still the problem. So they say, we'll take it to the manufacturer. Goes to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer, on their way bringing it back, tires blow out because it's sat for so long. The tires get dry rot. On the highway back, the tires blow out. The underbelly is being dragged along the highway then. And that's back into the manufacturer for additional problems, right? So by the time when that happens to somebody and they come to me, they are understandably very frustrated at that point. How long does it take for me to get a resolution after that? I would say it takes 2 to tango, right? I can be on the dance floor the whole time, ready to get a resolution. But until the defendant, and whatever the case is ready to come to the table to negotiate, we'll just keep pushing along towards that jury trial at the end of the road.
Something that I have heard a lot, and I think I believe it, is that these manufacturers have lawyered up. They've got, unlike the automotive industry that's got strict franchise agreements, the RV industry does not have something like that. So they're able to live in this wild, wild west, this gray area, and get away with certain things. And that they have, their team of lawyers has decided, generally speaking, that it's easier to just run the clock out, wear these people out, wear their lawyer out, and just run it out than it is to go ahead and go, okay, here you go, I'm going to reimburse you. And so they choose the least amount of pain for the manufacturer, and that is to stick it to the consumer. They gave them their money in the first place.
Well, let me say, I'm not going to be worn out, right? This is what I do. I understand it's tough for my clients, it's tough for anybody being litigation, but this is my job, so I'm not going to be worn out. But you're right that, look, for most people, they don't know that there's a legal remedy available under the federal law, right? For everybody, you shouldn't have to get a lawyer to get what's fair and right. It's a shame that people even need to resort to hiring a lawyer. You're dealing with a company that's got a lot more resources, and the time is on their side. They're holding the money that my client is owed, right? So they don't care if it takes 2 years or 3 years. That's why you need a lawyer who's going to push and try and get you to the end of that road as fast as possible, understanding that the law is a slow-moving beast for resolving conflict.
And uncertain. You never know which way it's going to go either. Even when you think probably when you think, oh, this is a slam dunk, something can come up. And so if I were to meet you someplace for the first time and we had 5 or 10 minutes to visit, and you heard that I was thinking about buying an RV, what advice would you give me? I mean, what would you encourage me to think of, do, not do? What would you only have a few minutes. What advice would you give me?
Well, let me answer this with a caveat that I'm not an RV consumer. It's probably something I would have been interested in if I didn't start doing these cases, but it scared me off being an RV owner myself.
Yeah.
So I guess from as a legal perspective, like what would I be looking for? I would want to know what the warranty looks like. How much protection does it give me? And look, I realize that's such a secondary, tertiary concern when you're buying something that's probably like a dream purchase for you. It's not going to be the top of the list of concerns. What does the warranty provide? Because you're hoping that you're never going to need the warranty, right?
Yeah.
But the warranties are written in ways to protect the manufacturer and the dealer. So we want to look at, it's just going to actually cover what I need and what are my obligations going to be under it. If they don't repair this and I'm out extra costs, are they disclaiming consequential damages? That's one of the things I'm seeing now is, you were on a road trip, you're 500 miles from home or whatever, you end up getting a hotel and figure out, right, because the camper broke down. Well, it's a consequential damage, consequence of their breach. There's warranties that disclaim that. So now that's not recoverable under the warranty that's in effect for your camper. So,
and some manufacturers make you take the product that you bought maybe in Texas all the way back to Indiana where it was manufactured, so they can begin working on it at your expense, the owner's expense.
There will sometimes be that the last repair effort has to be through the manufacturer before you have a cause of action you can bring before you can file a lawsuit, right?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that I heard in that news story, once again, the link is down below. Somebody hasn't seen it, that the Better Business Bureau there in that area where that Camping World is, was it 1,000 or they've got an F rating or something? I mean, how can they have so many people that have called up and communicated with the Better Business Bureau? And it's an F. It's an F. Yet they are able to continue just going along like everything's fine. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I wish I had an answer for you, Alan. You're right. There's a lot of complaints. I don't remember the number. I do remember it was an F rating from the Better Business Bureau.
Yeah.
If you could look on the court records, they've been sued multiple times. I don't know. It's not how I would do business. I'll just say that.
So you have got clients with, again, without digging, too much specifically into any of them. It seems like the common denominator is a big corporate chain, and that you are up against a giant Goliath corporation when you go against them as the plaintiff. Yes.
Yeah, and but I mean, not to sound flippant, that's usually what we're dealing with when you're a plaintiff. You're a regular person. You know,
Yeah, but hang on, but you don't get many people that have got a claim against a small company or a small dealership, probably. I mean, compared to the bigger ones.
all my RV cases have been against national brand manufacturers and dealers. Yes.
And what's the biggest complaint they have? What's the biggest complaint people have? The common denominator.
What I see more than anything is that the repairs just take an exceedingly long time. That clients are told, customers are told, we'll have it ready. Here's a promise date of next month or whatever. And again, 6 months, a year goes by. That's been the consistent theme for me. What I see, obviously there's defects in the first place that they shouldn't have existed. So I guess maybe it's two things. It's RVs sold with defects that become apparent from the very beginning or within a month or so, right? Sometimes it's on delivery, and then kind of empty promises of how long it will take to get it fixed.
So how hard do I push? There's a lot of people going to watch this video that are going, okay, I get it. I think I'm understanding what Josh is saying, but then they're saying, okay, now it applies to me. How quickly do I strike? How long do I trust the dealer? How many times do I let them have this moving target of excuses and stories when the end result is I still don't have my camper back? That's the big question. How long do I wait?
How long do you wait before you go and talk to
To hire Josh Slavin to represent me?
Yeah. So first you have to go through the process. You have to give them a reasonable number of attempts to try and fix it. Again, South Carolina says 3 repair attempts for 30 days out of service.
Yeah.
And maybe go a little bit longer on an RV because we're dealing with a much bigger piece of equipment than a Ford Focus or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And stuff's not as readily available off the shelf. Fine. You don't want to wait too long, right? Because there's statute of limitations that will inhibit it. Along the way, you want to keep documentation of the work orders and the issues as they arise, and you want to keep your hands on the paper copy of the work orders the whole way through. And if you have a phone conversation where they say they're going to do X or Y, put it into an email and write back to them, just saying, this will confirm that, our phone conversation where you say you're going to have this done by the state, or that you're going to take care of this, or whatever it is.
Document
it along the way. And that's going to be an individual choice, though, when you want to turn to a lawyer, because for some people, they're going to give a little more rope, right? Mm-hmm. to the dealers, the manufacturer, for how long it should take to get this thing done. This is a weird thing for a lawyer to say. I'm not a litigious person. I don't want people to need to get a lawyer. I want them to have a working camper that they're happy with and go live their life.
Yeah.
So the goal is not to have a lawsuit. The goal is have a working camper and be happy.
Something that I think people overlook, especially when they buy a used camper from these national stores, and maybe all of them do this, all small, big dealers alike. But generally right there on page 1, it may be buried in the little fine print, it will say as is condition. If it's a used RV, it's as is. But then there's all these other pieces of paper they sign, things they go through, extended service protection plans, this belief that they have some kind of a warranty with this used RV that they're buying. But when it comes time to cash it in, when they got a problem because it's a piece of junk that they bought, they go, no, it's right here, page 1, right there. Oh, let me get my spectacles on so I can see it. And reading that paperwork is so crucial. And I get people that just, they don't want to read it. They want to hurry up and go to the campground and start playing.
Yeah, the good advice, and I understand most people are just not in the position to do it, is to read through everything and understand it, ask questions, get their answers, written if you can, right? But look, I understand, Alan. These are not. I read these documents. I have to read them 2 or 3 times sometimes to understand what's being written. I don't expect somebody sitting in the sales office after hours of going through the sales process and being, you know, walk through on buy this one, that one, whatever. It's an emotional, high stress, a lot of money's at stake, and people, understandably, uh, don't want to go through the fine print. They should. I'd like them to.
Yeah.
Ask them, but
As they
I can't blame somebody for after going through all of that, uh, not being a lawyer for themselves.
Well, so now you heard it straight from the mouth of a seasoned attorney who's walking this road every day with frustrated RV owners. Folks, I'd love to say that this kind of thing was rare, but it's not. And Josh is right. The system is slow. It's complicated and stacked in favor of these corporate giants. But that doesn't mean that you or me or we are powerless. You deserve better. We all deserve better. By the way, if you're at the end of your, as I call it, your proverbial rope with an unresponsive dealer or an unresponsive manufacturer and your RV is still under warranty, I invite you to consider joining me here on YouTube to share your story with thousands of others who many may benefit from hearing your story. My contact info is down below. And yes, I read every comment, I listen to every voicemail, and I get back to as many folks as I possibly can. It's my view. It's my view that until and unless enough people who have been wronged speak up, the folks at the giant chain dealerships will keep doing what they're doing. And why shouldn't they? I mean, it's working for them, right? That's right. It's working for them, not for you, not for me, as they keep handing out empty promises and giving the rest of us the silent treatment. And to Camping World, if you're watching, and I'm sure you are, maybe it's time to stop the blame game. Stop it. Stop blaming the customer and the manufacturer and start looking in the mirror. These stories are real. They're also very painful, and they're not going to go away, at least not as long as I've got a voice and not as long as buyers and owners keep speaking up. Folks, if this conversation hits home, I hope that you will drop a comment down below and share your story if you got one. And tell me, what do you think needs to change about the way Camping World does business? Thanks so much for watching. I'm the RV Wingman. Y'all be safe, have fun, play nice, and don't leave your good manners at home.